I never expected the truth to come crashing down on me at a holiday party. But then again, who does? If you'd asked me a week ago, I would have told you everything was fine. My wife, Selena, and I had been together for almost 9 years, and like any long-term couple, we'd had our ups and downs. But I thought we were solid. That night started like any other holiday gathering. Selena looking stunning in her red dress, the sound of Christmas carols in the background, the air thick with the sweet smell of mulled wine and baked goods. Her family and a few of her colleagues were there, all chatting and laughing. I was fine with it. Selena was always the social butterfly, effortlessly charming everyone she met, and I was content to hang back and enjoy my drink. I was used to being the quieter one at these things, the one who observed. I noticed him almost immediately. His name was Chris, one of Selena's newer co-workers from the marketing team. I'd seen him around at a few events before, but this time, he seemed to be hanging around Selena more than usual. At first, I thought it was just me being paranoid. He was one of those overly eager types, always grinning too wide and speaking a little too loudly. But as the evening wore on, I started picking up on the little things, the way he kept getting closer to her, the way they laughed a little too long at each other's jokes, how she kept adjusting her hair when he spoke to her. I had no reason to think anything was wrong at first. She was just being friendly. But then something changed. I wasn't sure what it was at the time, but I felt it, a shift in the air, like a cold breeze sweeping through the room. Chris was getting more bold, and Selena seemed more receptive than she should have been. It was around 9:30 when I noticed them standing near the Christmas tree, her hand resting gently on his arm as they talked, their faces too close for comfort. Chris was saying something, leaning in a little too much. Selena was laughing, but there was something in her eyes that I couldn't quite place. Something that made my stomach twist. It was subtle, but there. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. The unease, the suspicion. I tried to shake it off. I was probably reading into things. After all, they worked together every day. Maybe she was just being nice. But then Chris reached out and touched her back, lightly at first, but then a little more firmly, as if he was claiming a space that wasn't his. That was when I saw red. I didn't walk over to them right away. No, I stayed back, pretending to laugh with some distant relative, but my eyes never left them. I watched as Selena smiled, a genuine smile that I'd seen her give me 100 times, but now it felt like it was being shared with someone else. She wasn't aware of me watching, or maybe she was, and didn't care. My heart was racing. I told myself to calm down. It wasn't what I thought. It couldn't be. Selena loved me, right? But the knot in my stomach wouldn't loosen. This wasn't just a friendly conversation. At one point, Chris stepped closer, leaning into her personal space. Selena seemed to hesitate for a moment, then let him. I couldn't take it anymore. The thoughts in my head were spiraling. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I made my way toward them, slow but steady, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Just as I reached the edge of the room, I saw it. Chris was looking down at Selena, his gaze locked on hers, and she was not pulling away. Her lips were parted in that way she did when she was listening intently. She looked entranced. But then she saw me. Her expression shifted in an instant. It was like a switch had been flipped. Her eyes widened, and that smile, faltered for a second before she recovered. The moment was gone, but I didn't miss it. She wasn't surprised to see me. She wasn't startled. She was caught. Chris, on the other hand, froze. His posture stiffened, and for the first time that night, his cocky grin dropped. I could see the panic flicker across his face in an instant, and in that moment, he knew. He knew exactly what he had been doing, and he knew that I knew. He looked at me, then back at Selena, and for a brief moment, time seemed to stop. In that one exchange of glances, I saw everything. All the unspoken words, the hesitation in Selena's eyes, the guilt in Chris's. And suddenly, all the suspicions I had buried deep in my mind came rushing to the surface. Chris cleared his throat awkwardly, but it was too late. The damage was done. He knew I knew, and I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't sure how to get out of this. He wasn't sure how much I had seen, how much I had figured out. Selena turned toward me, but it wasn't like how it used to be. Her smile was gone, replaced by a strained expression I hadn't seen before. "I didn't realize you were right behind me," she said, her voice a little too high, a little too controlled. I didn't respond right away. I couldn't. I was still processing what I just witnessed. I could feel my fists clenching, my mind racing through every interaction I'd ever had with Selena and Chris, every glance, every conversation, every moment that now seemed suspicious in retrospect. "Are you okay?" Selena asked, her voice soft, but there was something in her tone, a hint of defensiveness, that made me want to laugh. She was asking me if I was okay? After everything I had just seen? "I'm fine," I said, my voice colder than I intended. I wasn't fine. Far from it. But I wasn't about to let her see that. Not yet. I could feel Chris standing beside her, just a few feet away, his presence uncomfortable and heavy. He was still trying to recover, but it was clear he knew the game was up. He had been bold, thinking I wouldn't notice, thinking I wouldn't put the pieces together. But he had underestimated me. And now, everything was about to change. The room felt colder after that moment. It wasn't the temperature, it was the atmosphere, thick with the weight of something unsaid, something hanging between us. Selena's attempt at a smile was as empty as the air around us. She was trying to recover, to make everything feel normal again, but the crack in her composure was evident. I knew something was off, something was broken. Chris was still standing there, awkwardly shifting his weight from one foot to the other. He wasn't saying anything, but his eyes were darting between Selena and me, clearly searching for an escape, but not finding one. I could almost see the thoughts racing through his head. How long has he been watching? How much does he know? Selena cleared her throat, attempting to steer the conversation in a new direction, but I wasn't having it. I could feel the anger bubbling inside, but I kept it down, for now. Instead, I decided to do something that might be even worse, to stay calm, to force them to face the situation without any emotional outbursts. "So what were you two talking about?" I asked, my voice level controlled. Selena hesitated for a moment. That brief pause, just long enough to let me know she was scrambling for words. "Nothing, just catching up." Her response was too quick, too rehearsed. "Catching up?" I repeated, arching an eyebrow. "Since when do you two get together to catch up during a holiday party?" My voice was colder now, sharper. Chris shifted uncomfortably, glancing at Selena for some sign of what to do next. She finally broke eye contact with me and turned toward him. "Chris," she started, but there was a certain defensiveness creeping into her voice now. "Can you give us a moment? I'll join you back inside in a bit." Chris didn't hesitate. He nodded quickly and took a few steps back, not before shooting me a look. It wasn't one of guilt, but one of recognition. Like he knew what was coming, like he understood exactly how this would play out. Once he was gone, Selena exhaled a breath she'd clearly been holding. I could feel the space between us grow as she stepped back slightly. "Look," she started, but I cut her off before she could say anything else. "I saw it, Selena. Don't lie to me." The words came out harsh, sharper than I intended, but I couldn't stop them. "I saw the way he was looking at you. The way you were looking at him. Don't pretend like it's nothing." She flinched, her body stiffening. I could tell she didn't expect me to confront her so directly. "It's not what you think," she said quickly, but her eyes were avoiding mine, darting to the side as if she couldn't bear to meet my gaze. I felt the anger rising in me again, but I kept it in check. The last thing I wanted was to lose control in front of her, to let her see just how deeply this cut. "Then what is it, Selena?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Tell me, because I don't buy this catching up nonsense." She bit her lip, her hands clasped together in front of her. There was no more confidence in her posture, no more charm. She looked vulnerable now, and something in me twisted painfully. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. I wasn't supposed to be standing here, questioning her like this. "I don't know what you think you saw," she began, her voice shaky. "But it's not." "Not what?" I snapped. "Not an affair? Not flirting?" Because that's exactly what it looked like to me. Her face fell, her eyes closing for a brief moment, and when she opened them again, I saw the truth. I saw the guilt, the discomfort, the guilt that hadn't been there before. "You're overreacting," she whispered, but I could see the cracks in her words. I didn't reply at first. I just stood there, staring at her. My mind was racing. All the signs, her nervousness, the way she'd reacted when I walked in, the way Chris had been acting like he owned her attention. I didn't need any more proof. I already knew. "Am I?" I finally said, my voice quieter now. "Because, Selena, you're not fooling me. I know what I saw, and I know what this is." She opened her mouth to protest, but then stopped. It was like she was trying to find the right words, but there were no right words left. And that's when I realized something else. I wasn't just hurt. I was terrified. Terrified of what this meant. Terrified of what had already happened between them. But most of all, terrified of how much of a fool I had been to not see it sooner. Why, Selena? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why him? But she didn't answer. Instead, she stepped back even further, her face pale, her body language saying everything I didn't want to hear. I wanted to scream, to shout, to demand answers. But instead, I stood there, frozen. All I could do was watch as the distance between us grew wider. Selena stepped back, her eyes not quite meeting mine. The silence between us stretched on, thick with unsaid words, hanging in the air like a storm waiting to break. I watched her closely, trying to read her face, trying to understand what had happened. The woman I thought I knew so well, the woman I had trusted for almost a decade, was slipping away from me right in front of my eyes. I don't know what you want me to say, she finally muttered, her voice strained. It was the first time I'd heard her sound so fragile. Her usual confidence was gone, replaced with something else, a weariness, a deep tiredness that I didn't understand. I felt the anger creeping back up. I wanted answers. I needed them. I want the truth, Selena. That's all. I saw it. I saw how he was with you, how you were with him. Don't tell me it's nothing. Her shoulders slumped, like the weight of her own guilt was too much for her to bear. For a moment, she didn't speak, and I thought maybe she wouldn't. Maybe she would stay silent, letting the truth fester between us. But then, she sighed, a long, exhausted breath. It's not what you think. I shook my head. I saw you laughing, standing too close. You let him touch you, Selena. You didn't pull away. Don't try to deny it. She winced at the words, her face twisting in discomfort. She didn't answer right away, and that silence spoke louder than any words she could have said. Finally, she took a deep breath, her hands nervously fidgeting with the edge of her dress. It was a mistake, she whispered, the words barely audible. I didn't know what to say. A mistake? Was that all this was? All the laughter, the touches, the moments I'd caught her sharing with him. It was a mistake? I could feel the rage bubbling up inside me. It was like a pressure building in my chest, but I kept it in check. I had to. A mistake, I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady, though it trembled with emotion. That's your explanation? A mistake? She nodded slowly, her eyes finally meeting mine, filled with regret and shame. I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. My chest tightened. I wanted to scream, to throw something, anything. But I couldn't move. I was paralyzed, standing there in the hallway, watching the woman I loved unravel in front of me. I wanted to ask her why, how, what had changed. But the question I asked instead was the one that hurt the most. Do you love him? The words tasted like acid in my mouth. Her face went pale, and she stepped back, as though the question had physically struck her. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For a long moment, she said nothing. I don't know, she finally said, her voice cracking. I don't know, but it's not what you think. I didn't want to hurt you. That was it. That was all she could say. The truth was out, but it wasn't the whole truth. I could see the cracks in her words. I could see the way she was still protecting something, someone, and I wasn't sure if I could handle it. She reached out, like she was going to touch my arm, but I pulled away before she could. My mind was spinning, trying to process everything she had just said. A mistake? A mistake that she hadn't even fully admitted to? And now, I was supposed to just accept it? I need some time, I said, my voice low. I turned away before she could say anything else. As I walked away from her, I felt the weight of the night pressing down on me, each step feeling heavier than the last. I could feel her eyes on me, but I couldn't bring myself to turn around. What was I supposed to say? What could I say? I stepped outside into the cold night air, trying to shake off the heat that was building inside of me. The stars above were clear and cold, a sharp contrast to the turmoil inside me. I leaned against the railing, staring out into the darkness, trying to make sense of everything. How had it come to this? How had I not seen it before? I had been blind, foolish, thinking everything was fine. And now, everything was shattered. I couldn't believe I was standing here, in the middle of this mess, alone. But I wasn't alone. Not really. Because I knew now, Selena had already let someone else into our lives. Someone I couldn't ignore anymore. And I was going to find out just how deep this went. The night felt endless. I stood outside, breathing in the cold air like it might clear the fog in my head, but it didn't. The anger I'd been trying to suppress was still there, like a fire waiting to ignite. I kept replaying her words in my mind. It was a mistake. I don't know. And the one that hit hardest. I didn't mean to hurt you. She didn't even seem to understand the magnitude of what had just happened. I wasn't sure if I could forgive her, but I couldn't just walk away without knowing the full story. I paced back and forth on the porch, the crunch of snow underfoot the only sound that seemed to matter. I wanted to scream, to confront her again, but I knew I had to give it a moment. I needed to think, even if I didn't want to. The door opened behind me. I didn't turn around. Are you okay? Selena's voice was quiet, hesitant. I wanted to tell her no, that nothing was okay. But I didn't. Instead, I just let the silence stretch between us. She stood there for a moment, unsure whether to step closer or stay where she was. I could feel the weight of her presence, but it was like she was a stranger to me now. I don't know what you want from me, she finally said, her voice breaking the silence. I exhaled sharply, turning to face her. I want you to tell me the truth, Selena. The whole truth. You keep saying mistake, but it doesn't add up. She looked down, biting her lip, her eyes avoiding mine. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I took a step closer, my voice cold. But it did, didn't it? It happened, and now we're standing here, and you're telling me it was a mistake. Tell me, how long has this been going on? How long has he been more than just a coworker? Her eyes flickered with panic. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but nothing came out. Selena, I pushed. How long? A long pause. Then, finally, she whispered, a few months. A few months. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. She'd been lying to me for months. This wasn't some random flirtation that just happened one night. It had been going on behind my back, right under my nose, and I had no idea. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The betrayal was overwhelming, but there was still one more thing I needed to know. Did you ever love him? I asked the question that had been gnawing at me since this whole thing started. She didn't respond immediately. She was staring at the ground, her eyes filled with regret, guilt, and something else I couldn't read. I don't know, she said softly. I think I got confused. It wasn't supposed to happen. Confused. That's how she justified it. I wanted to shout, to tell her that this wasn't some silly mistake. It wasn't just confusion. It was betrayal. But instead, I stood there, silent. Every word she said only made things worse. The more she spoke, the more distant she became, and the more the gap between us seemed to widen. I never wanted to hurt you, she said again, her voice trembling now. I love you, but I lost myself for a while. You lost yourself? I repeated, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. Is that what this is? You lost yourself, so you decided to let someone else in? Someone who wasn't me? Her face crumpled, and for the first time that night, I saw tears welling in her eyes. I'm so sorry, she whispered, her voice breaking. I never meant for any of this to happen. I shook my head. Sorry isn't enough, Selena. Not after everything. She took a shaky breath, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. What do you want me to do? What can I say to make it right? I didn't know the answer to that. I didn't know what she could say, what she could do to fix what was broken between us. I wanted to walk away, to end this, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the years we'd spent together. Maybe it was the history we had. But deep down, I knew that walking away wasn't going to fix anything. I needed closure. I needed the truth. Tell me, Selena, I said quietly. Tell me you weren't thinking of him when you were with me. Tell me you didn't imagine him when we were together. She closed her eyes, and the silence stretched out painfully. When she spoke again, it was barely above a whisper. I was wrong. I was stupid. But I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could handle it, but I couldn't. I thought I could keep it from you. Keep it from me? The anger surged again, but I controlled it. Barely. How long were you planning on keeping it from me, Selena? How long were you going to let this go on? Her hands trembled as she reached out, but I stepped back, not letting her touch me. Not this time. Please, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I love you. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to reach out, to take her in my arms, to tell her it would be okay, that we could fix this. But the other part of me was too hurt, too betrayed, to even think about it. The woman I loved had just shattered everything. And now, I had to figure out what to do next. The cold air bit at my skin, but I barely felt it. Inside, a storm was raging, one that I couldn't escape, no matter how hard I tried. Selena stood there, her eyes red and puffy, her face a mixture of guilt and sorrow. She wanted to reach out, to fix it, but I couldn't let her. Not yet. Not when everything felt broken beyond repair. I don't know what to say anymore, she said quietly, her voice fragile, like she was walking on eggshells. I know I've ruined everything. I've hurt you. I could feel the words weighing down on me, pulling me under. I didn't want to hear apologies anymore. I didn't want to hear her broken voice telling me how sorry she was. Sorry wasn't going to fix what she had done. I looked at her, the woman I thought I knew, the woman I'd shared everything with. I saw her, really saw her, for the first time. And in that moment, I didn't know who she was anymore. You keep saying that, I muttered, my voice tight. Sorry, but you've hurt me, Selena. You've lied to me for months. And now you expect me to just forgive you because you say you're sorry? She took a step closer, but I held up a hand, stopping her. I didn't want to feel her touch. Not right now. You betrayed me, and I don't know if I can come back from that. She closed her eyes, her lips trembling, but she didn't speak. I couldn't tell if she was waiting for me to forgive her, or if she was just waiting for the storm to pass. But it wasn't going to pass. Not until I had answers. Why him, Selena? I asked, the question that had been haunting me for days now. Why Chris? What was it about him? Her eyes met mine, and I saw the flicker of shame there, the guilt that she could no longer hide. It's complicated. He made me feel seen, like I was important. I've been so distant from you lately, and I don't know. It was stupid. Stupid. I repeated, the word tasting bitter. It wasn't stupid, Selena. It was more than that. It was a choice. You chose him over me. Her face crumpled, and I saw her trying to find the right words, but nothing seemed to come out. She looked down, her hands wringing together. I didn't want it to happen, she whispered. I never meant for it to go this far. It was just something that happened when we were both in a bad place. I swallowed hard. The pain was suffocating now, but I couldn't stop myself from asking, are you still seeing him? Her eyes snapped to mine, and for the first time, I saw fear in them. No, I swear it ended. I cut it off after I realized what I'd done to you. But I don't expect you to believe me. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to. But how could I? How could I ever trust her again after everything she'd done? I felt my heart pounding in my chest, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Could I walk away from this? Could I leave her and move on? Or was there a chance, just a small chance, that we could somehow rebuild what had been destroyed? I don't know if I can stay, Selena, I said quietly, my voice hoarse. I don't know if I can live with this. If I can live with you after everything. Her face fell. She stepped back, as if the words had physically hit her. I saw the desperation in her eyes as she reached out. I'll do anything to make this right, she pleaded. I love you. Please don't leave me. Please, just, let's fix this together. I closed my eyes for a moment, the pressure in my chest almost unbearable. It would be easy to walk away. It would be so easy to pack my things and never look back. But something in me still wanted to fight. But what was I fighting for? The woman who had betrayed me? The woman who had torn apart everything we'd built? You say you love me, I said, my voice barely a whisper. But how do I know you mean it? How do I know you won't do this again? She looked at me with wide, pleading eyes. I swear it's over. I swear I'll never hurt you again. Please, just give me a chance. I stood there, frozen, my heart torn in two. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could move past this. But a part of me knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The choice was mine to make. Stay and try to rebuild, or walk away and leave it all behind. But deep down, I knew one thing for sure. Whatever decision I made, I would never forget the look on Chris's face when he saw me standing there, watching them. The look of guilt, the look of fear. And now, that look would haunt me forever. The next few days were a blur of questions and silence. Selena and I barely spoke after that night. I couldn't bring myself to look at her the same way. Every time I did, all I saw was the woman who had betrayed me. I wanted answers, but part of me was afraid to hear them. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine, that we could just move on from this. The trust that had held us together for so long was gone, shattered into a million pieces. But there was still one thing I couldn't shake. It wasn't just Selena's betrayal that bothered me. It was Chris. The look on his face when he saw me standing there, when he knew I knew. That look of fear, guilt, regret. It stuck with me. I couldn't let it go. I needed to confront him, get the truth straight from his mouth. So, I made the decision. I couldn't wait any longer. I called him. It took a few tries, but eventually he picked up. Hello. His voice sounded strained, like he'd been expecting this. I need to talk to you, I said, my tone flat. In person. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then, fine. When and where? I gave him the address of the park near my place. I needed space. No distractions. Just the two of us, face to face. The tension in my chest only grew as I stood there waiting for him to show up. Part of me wanted to back out. Part of me didn't want to hear the truth. But I knew that if I didn't confront him now, I would always wonder. Always question. And I couldn't live like that. When he finally arrived, he looked the same as he had at the party. Tall, confident. But there was something different now. The arrogance was gone. In its place was uncertainty, like he knew he was about to face something he couldn't control. Let's get this over with, he said, his voice tight. I didn't waste any time. Why? Why her? He shifted uncomfortably, running a hand through his hair. It wasn't planned, okay? It just happened. I stared at him, my anger bubbling back up. Just happened? You think I'm stupid? This wasn't some accident, Chris. You knew what you were doing. He looked away, guilt flooding his expression. I never wanted to hurt you. I swear. We were both in bad places. Selena's been distant for months. I guess I don't know. It felt like we were both looking for something. Something inside me snapped. So, you just took what you wanted, didn't you? Without any regard for what it would do to me. To her. He didn't say anything for a moment, and when he finally spoke, it was quieter, more defeated. I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't think it would. I don't know. I'm not proud of it. I clenched my fists, trying to keep the rage from spilling out. Well, you should be. You've ruined everything. You've ruined us. Chris looked like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. I took a step closer, my voice colder now. Do you love her? Or was it just for fun? He hesitated, looking down at his shoes. I don't know, he said, his voice barely audible. I think I thought I did, but now. I just don't know. That was it. I didn't need to hear more. He had his answer, and so did I. Chris wasn't the cause of this. The cause was something deeper, something I couldn't fix with one conversation. The damage was done, and now I had to decide what came next. I looked him straight in the eye. Stay away from her, I said. Stay away from both of us. He didn't argue. He just nodded slowly, then turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling the weight of the decision settling on my shoulders. As I walked back to my car, my mind raced. The conversation with Chris hadn't given me the clarity I'd hoped for. In fact, it only made everything feel messier. Selena had been looking for something, and so had Chris. They'd both lost themselves in something they thought they wanted. And I was left in the aftermath, trying to pick up the pieces. I still didn't know what I was going to do next. But one thing was clear. I couldn't go back to how things were. Not after this. Not after everything that had been said. And so, the choice I'd been avoiding loomed large in my mind. Would I forgive her? Would I try to rebuild? Or would I walk away, leaving everything behind? The answer wasn't as simple as it seemed. I didn't feel the weight of the decision at first. It was almost like I was living in a fog, moving through each day without fully engaging in any of it. Selena and I barely spoke after the confrontation with Chris. She'd apologized 100 times, but it didn't matter anymore. The truth was out there, and the trust between us? Gone. I spent most of my time at work, keeping myself busy, trying not to think about the mess I was in. But every time I closed my eyes, her face was there, tear-streaked, pleading, apologizing. I kept asking myself the same questions over and over again. Could I forgive her? Could I ever look at her the same way? I wanted to believe her when she said she loved me. But love didn't break someone. Love didn't betray. It wasn't supposed to feel like this. Then one evening, she came to me again. We were sitting in the living room, the silence between us stretching longer than usual. She had that look on her face, the one that said she wasn't going to let it go until we talked. I can't keep doing this, she said, her voice shaky. I didn't say anything. I didn't even look at her. Please, she continued. I know I've hurt you. I know I can't change what happened, but I love you. I want to fix this. I want to make it right. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something, anything, just to release the pressure that was building in my chest. But instead, I sat there, numb, staring at the wall. I don't know if I can trust you again, Selena, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I don't know if I can go back to who we were. Her eyes welled up again, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But the truth was, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, the image of her with Chris, the way she'd looked at him. I understand, she said quietly, looking down at her hands. But I don't want to lose you. I don't want to let this be the end. I didn't respond. What was there to say? I had already made my decision, but hearing her like this made it harder. The woman I had once known and loved was gone, and all that remained was this fragile, broken version of her. I stood up, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I need time, Selena. I can't do this right now. She didn't argue, didn't try to stop me. She just sat there, the tears in her eyes slowly falling down her face. As I walked out of the room, I felt like I was walking away from everything I had believed in, everything I had trusted. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. Was leaving the right choice? Could I ever go back to her? Could I even forgive her? I didn't know. But deep down, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't keep living like this. The days that followed felt like an endless cycle of questions with no answers. I distanced myself from Selena, staying at a friend's place, focusing on work, anything to keep my mind occupied. I'd told myself I needed space, but the truth was, I needed time to heal, to process what had happened. I couldn't erase the image of Selena with Chris, couldn't shake the feeling that I had been the fool, the one left in the dark while they played their game. But as time passed, I realized something. I was stronger than I had given myself credit for. I wasn't going to let this break me. I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life questioning every word, every gesture, every moment. And then came the call that changed everything. It was a week later, just as I was getting back into my routine. My phone buzzed with an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I should. Hello, I said cautiously. Hey, it's Chris, came the voice on the other end. I tensed. We need to talk. At that moment, I felt a strange sense of calm. I had nothing left to lose. What do you want? I asked, keeping my voice steady. I know things between us are complicated, he started, but I cut him off. Complicated, I repeated, my anger flaring up. You betrayed me, Chris. You ruined everything. I know, he said quietly. I'm not calling to make excuses. I called because I need to tell you something. Something that I don't think you know. I paused, confused. What do you mean? He hesitated. Selena, she's been seeing someone else. After everything with me, I thought it was done, but she started again, with someone else from work. A rush of realization hit me like a wave. It wasn't just me she had betrayed. She had kept lying, kept deceiving, even after everything that had happened with Chris. Why are you telling me this? I asked, my voice sharp. Because I'm not the only one she's hurt. I just wanted you to know. I never intended for it to go this far. But I'm done with her. I'm out of this mess, he said, his tone finally sounding sincere. For a moment, I was stunned. I had suspected, of course, but hearing it from him felt like a slap in the face. Selena had kept playing the victim while she was still sneaking around, and now Chris, of all people, was the one to finally pull the curtain back. The betrayal felt even deeper now. I wasn't just angry at her. I was disgusted by the lies, the manipulation. And I realized then that I was done. I ended the call without another word and immediately drove to Selena's place. I had been avoiding this moment for so long, but now there was no turning back. When I walked into the apartment, Selena was there, sitting on the couch, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She didn't even look up when I entered. I took a deep breath. I know, Selena, I said, my voice steady. I know about him. About everything. Her eyes snapped up, her face going pale. What do you mean? Chris isn't the only one you've been lying to, I said, letting the words sink in. You've been seeing someone else. And I know it wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice you made over and over again. She opened her mouth to say something, but I raised my hand, stopping her. I'm done with your lies, Selena. I'm done with everything. The silence between us was deafening. Her face fell, and for the first time, I saw the guilt and fear in her eyes, not because she was sorry, but because she knew I was done. I don't want to do this anymore. I continued, my voice cold. You've destroyed everything between us. There's no coming back from this. I never meant for it to go this far, she whispered, her voice breaking. I shook my head, stepping back toward the door. It doesn't matter. I've given you enough chances. I'm moving on. As I walked out, I felt a strange sense of peace. This was it. The final step. I was taking control of my life again. Weeks passed, and Selena tried to reach out, sending me texts, emails, apologies, pleas for forgiveness. But I ignored them all. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. As for me, I started to rebuild. I focused on myself, on healing, on rediscovering the man I was before Selena. I spent time with friends, focused on my career, and eventually, I even started dating again. It wasn't easy, but it was freeing. In the end, Selena's actions caught up with her. Word got out about her affairs, and her reputation at work crumbled. She lost friends, lost respect, and the perfect image she'd once tried so hard to maintain fell apart. Karma had a way of finding its target. As for me, I found peace in knowing that I was finally free. Free from the lies, the pain, and the betrayal. And that was enough. The hardest part was over. And now, I was ready for something new. Something real.